History does not begin quietly. It begins with thunder. A storm rolling over the cradle of civilization, casting long shadows over the first cities carved from clay. Before the pyramids stood unmoved by time, before the palaces of Persia burned with immortal fire, there was only dust and the hands of humans shaping their world. And somewhere in that dust rises a whisper. A whisper of ambition. Of kings whose hunger carved empires, whose betrayals redrew the maps of humanity, whose loves were written not in poetry but in the decisions that changed the fate of millions. This is the story of the ancient world, where power was fragile, destiny was ruthless, and immortality was earned by those unafraid to challenge the gods themselves. The camera of the mind drifts over the vast plain of Mesopotamia. The sun is low, baking the earth into a mosaic of cracked lines. A river glimmers like spilled silver. And beside it stands a young man who will change everything, Sargon, not yet a king, not yet a conqueror, only a boy abandoned in a reed basket and carried by the waters of destiny. He is tending gardens now, silent, thoughtful, as the wind plays with his dark hair. No one knows who he truly is. No one knows what he will become. But already there is something restless in his eyes, a fire not content with obscurity. There are pauses in the air, moments in which time seems to hold its breath. Sargon feels them. Every great leader feels them before the world itself knows their name. In one of those pauses, as he wipes sweat from his brow, he hears distant drums from the royal city of Kish. A king is dying. A throne is weakening. And in that crack of uncertainty, destiny places its first seed. Far to the south, in the memory of the people, another figure lives as both man and myth. Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk. His story is told in clay tablets and whispered by old men sitting near the fire. Whether he truly lived in the precise shape the legends describe does not matter. What matters is the echo he left behind. A king who sought immortality because he could not accept the fragility of life. A king who loved deeply, fought fiercely, and wept for the loss of friendship. His shadow stretches over Sargon's world, reminding every leader to come that kingship is not merely a crown, it is a burden heavier than any stone. Back in Kish, council members argue through the night. Their torches sputter with sparks, illuminating sharp voices and sharper ambitions. The city needs a ruler who can unite the fracturing lands. But the nobles distrust one another. They suspect betrayal in every whisper and assassination in every cup of wine. And while they quarrel, Sargon is summoned to carry water into the palace gardens. A simple task. A quiet duty. But sometimes the smallest footsteps lead directly into history. As Sargon enters the garden, he pauses. The dying king, perched beneath a canopy of trees, watches him with eyes clouded by pain but sharpened by instinct. It is as if the king sees something in this young man that others have missed. Something steady. Something unbroken. With a slow gesture, the king beckons Sargon closer. And in the long, quiet pause that follows, the first bond between power and destiny is forged. While Sargon's star begins to rise in Mesopotamia, another world is taking shape beyond deserts and mountains. Along the Nile, life flows differently. Egypt, older than memory, stands proud with temples so vast they seem carved by the gods. Here, power does not come from conquest alone but from divinity. A pharaoh is not just a ruler, he is the living bridge between heaven and earth. In this land of eternal suns and eternal beliefs, a girl named Hatshepsut walks through the palace halls with the confidence of someone born to shape history. She is observant, thoughtful, curious. Priests whisper that she is unusually bright, unusually perceptive, unusually bold. Years later, those whispers will become shouts as she takes a throne no woman was ever meant to claim. But for now, she watches her father's court from a distance, understanding everything and saying nothing. A pause, soft as sand shifting under bare feet. Nearby, a small boy runs through the courtyard, wooden sword in hand. His name is Thutmose, and though he does not know it now, he will grow into one of Egypt's greatest conquerors. Hatshepsut watches him with a mixture of affection and calculation. Their futures are intertwined, though neither of them can yet imagine how war, love, loyalty, and ambition will pull them in opposite directions and then bind their legacies forever. Across the Fertile Crescent, Sargon rises step by step. First a trusted servant. Then a trusted advisor. Then rumors whisper that he is more than merely loyal, he is essential. But power never grows without envy. Nobles begin to plot in secret chambers. They accuse him of overreaching, of dreaming beyond his station. They speak to the king with poison-coated words, seeking to cut Sargon down before he becomes dangerous. The king, however, sees through them. On one late evening, as the sun bleeds across the sky, he calls Sargon to his side. His voice is frail but certain. He tells Sargon that the throne needs someone with vision, someone with courage. Someone who understands the pulse of the people. And with a trembling hand, the king gifts Sargon a symbol of authority. It is small. It is subtle. But it is enough to shift the balance of power. In the pause that follows, the nobles feel a sudden coldness in their hearts. The story flows like a river. One world rising in Mesopotamia, another shimmering in Egypt, and far beyond them both, in the land that will one day be Persia, a child named Cyrus is born under a sky full of omens. His birth is marked by a strange quiet in the wind, as if the world recognizes him. His mother senses it. His father senses it. The priests, gazing at the stars, whisper that this child carries a destiny that will remake continents. But no one can yet know that Cyrus will become a king like no other, one who conquers through respect as much as through force. Now we drift back to Mesopotamia. The king of Kish dies. The throne stands vulnerable. And in the unrest that follows, Sargon steps forward, not with greed but with clarity. He seizes the palace not for himself but to restore order. Yet once his hands touch the throne's cold stone, something awakens inside him. A realization, a truth. That perhaps he is not merely saving the kingdom. Perhaps he is meant to shape something far larger, a united Akkadian empire where none had existed, but every birth of power comes with resistance. Generals reject him. City-states rebel. Messengers gallop across plains with warnings. War drums echo. And Sargon stands at the center like a quiet storm, calm yet unstoppable. He calls men to his side not with promises of wealth but with the promise of purpose. A purpose larger than themselves. That call changes everything. Back in Egypt, Hatshepsut grows older. She watches her brother Thutmose ascend as pharaoh, but illness shadows him. His young son, the future Thutmose III, becomes heir. Hatshepsut is named regent, at first only to guide the child. But something in her, ambition, wisdom, destiny, begins to bloom. She realizes she is more capable than any advisor, braver than any general, more beloved by the people than the young king ever could be. The world begins to shift in her favor. A truth. That perhaps he is not merely saving the kingdom. Perhaps he is meant to shape something far larger, a united Akkadian empire where none had existed, but every birth of power comes with resistance. Generals reject him. City-states rebel. Messengers gallop across plains with warnings. War drums echo. And Sargon stands at the center like a quiet storm, calm yet unstoppable. He calls men to his side not with promises of wealth but with the promise of purpose. A purpose larger than themselves. That call changes everything. Back in Egypt, Hatshepsut grows older. She watches her brother Thutmose ascend as pharaoh, but illness shadows him. His young son, the future Thutmose III, becomes heir. Hatshepsut is named regent, at first only to guide the child. But something in her, ambition, wisdom, destiny, begins to bloom. She realizes she is more capable than any advisor, braver than any general, more beloved by the people than the young king ever could be. The world begins to shift in her favor. A soft pause hovers between scenes. Mesopotamia burns with war as Sargon marches across the land, city after city falling not out of fear alone but out of recognition that something new is forming. Many people welcome him, believing he brings unity. Others resist, believing he brings chains. Every conquest is both victory and sacrifice. Every battle leaves Sargon more determined, more focused, more aware that kingship demands a price nothing can prepare you for. Meanwhile, Egypt prepares for an unprecedented transformation. Hatshepsut, once regent, now steps forward as pharaoh in her own right. She dons royal regalia, takes on male imagery, commands armies, builds monuments that defy time. But she does not do it alone. Thutmose III watches from the shadows of the palace. Too young to challenge her, too proud to accept her rule, too clever to speak against her. The tension between them simmers, ready to reshape Egypt's future, and across deserts, Cyrus grows. The boy becomes a youth. The youth becomes a prince. His teachers speak of justice. His mother speaks of compassion. His father speaks of courage. Cyrus listens to all, absorbing each lesson like a sponge absorbing water. He watches how kings of neighboring lands treat their people with cruelty. And he vows, quietly, that he will lead differently, not through terror, but through respect. Not through destruction, but through opportunity. The ancient world expands before your eyes, a tapestry of ambitions and destinies moving toward inevitable collision. Sargon forging the first empire. Hatshepsut claiming a throne forbidden to her. Thutmose sharpening his will for the future. Cyrus preparing for kingship. Gilgamesh living eternally in the minds of all who seek greatness. Hammurabi waiting in history's wings to carve law into stone. The stage is set. The characters have stepped forward. The world holds its breath, the world tightens around its kings as ambition grows heavier and the price of power begins to reveal itself. Sargon now stands not as a rising figure but as a conqueror whose name echoes along riverbanks and through crowded marketplaces. Yet every echo carries both admiration and fear. The city of Ur stands defiant against him, its walls high, its pride higher. Sargon approaches with an army that stretches across the horizon, but as he gazes upon the city, he pauses long enough to feel the weight of what comes next. War is not a march of glory. It is a march of consequence. Even the greatest kings understand that conquest reshapes more than land, it reshapes the soul. The gates of Ur tremble under the force of siege. Flaming arrows streak across the sky like angry stars. Soldiers collide in a brutal clash of shields and spears. Dust rises in thick clouds. Sargon walks through the battlefield with a calm intensity, his voice steady as he calls his men forward. For a moment, as the fighting reaches its peak, he remembers the quiet garden where he once served water to a dying king. Destiny has transformed him, but the memory remains like a whisper guiding him through the chaos. When Ur finally falls, Sargon does not celebrate. He orders supplies for the hungry. He speaks to the trembling citizens not as a tyrant but as someone who understands suffering. This act surprises his own generals, and word spreads quickly. A conqueror who shows mercy. A warrior who remembers where he came from. The ancient world is unaccustomed to such contradictions, and contradictions often create legends. Far to the west, the Nile shimmers with a regal calm that belies the tension building inside Egypt's royal court. Hatshepsut reigns with unmatched brilliance, crafting monuments and expeditions, elevating Egypt to cultural and economic glory. Ships return from the land of Punt with incense and gold. Palaces echo with the sounds of celebration and prosperity. And yet, behind all the triumph, Thutmose grows older, watching each passing year carve deeper frustration into his spirit. He studies military strategy in secret chambers, trains with hardened commanders, and listens to the whispers of those who believe the throne is rightfully his. Every moment, every breath, pushes him closer to a destiny that has been delayed but not erased. He respects Hatshepsut, admires her even, but jealousy coils quietly inside him like a serpent waiting for its moment to strike. A soft pause drifts across the scene, the kind of pause in which everything changes. Hatshepsut gazes at a mural being carved into her temple walls. The images speak of her divine birth, her rightful place as pharaoh, her extraordinary legacy. She smiles at the artisans, but behind her eyes lies a loneliness only power can create. She has built an empire of stone, yet she knows time will not protect her. She knows Thutmose is waiting. She feels the inevitable shift approaching like wind before a sandstorm. But she does not step aside. She cannot. History rarely rewards the timid. Across distant mountains, Cyrus takes his first steps into the arena of leadership. His father's death places him on the throne of a modest realm, not yet an empire, not yet a force the world fears. But the foundation of greatness does not require size, only vision. Cyrus visits villages disguised as a common traveler, listening to the grievances of farmers, merchants, and soldiers. He speaks with kindness, learns their hardships, and recognizes something profound. Justice is not a luxury. It is the root of stability. A king cannot demand loyalty, he must earn it. The lessons settle deep in him like seeds waiting for the right season to bloom. Back in Mesopotamia, the ancient memory of Gilgamesh continues to inspire generations. Hammurabi, a wise young ruler in Babylon, grows under the shadow of those legends. He studies the stories not as myths but as warnings. Kings rise. Kings fall. Only justice endures. As he walks through bustling streets, he hears disputes in markets and sees suffering in alleys. Babylon is powerful but fractured. Wealth glitters in palaces while the poor toil unseen. One night, Hammurabi stands beside the Euphrates River, listening to the water's slow movement. He feels a stirring in his heart, a conviction that the role of a king is not merely to command armies or build monuments. It is to create fairness in a world where fairness is rare. A quiet determination forms inside him. He will craft laws that outlive him. Laws that shape society. Laws that bring order to the chaos left behind by endless wars. As he gazes into the river, the moonlight reflects upon its surface like a promise waiting to be written in stone. The ancient world is shifting. Sargon's empire stretches across Mesopotamia like a great tapestry woven with victory and sacrifice. Hatshepsut's reign glows with achievements even as the shadow of Thutmose lengthens. Cyrus grows stronger, wiser, more aware that his destiny reaches far beyond the borders of his homeland. And Hammurabi prepares to carve his name into history not through conquest, but through justice. The air thickens with tension. Sargon faces the greatest challenge of his reign when rebellious cities unite against him. They see him not as a stabilizing force but as a threat to their independence. Armies clash along riverbanks. Alliances crumble. Yet Sargon does not relent. He gathers his commanders, studies the terrain, and crafts a new strategy. Not brute force, precision. He divides the rebel coalition, isolates their leaders, and brings them to heal one city at a time. It is a lesson in patience, discipline, and leadership that will echo across centuries, but victory does not silence doubt. At night, Sargon sits in his tent, staring into the darkness, wondering whether he has become the very tyrant he once feared. Power changes men. Even those who resist its pull cannot escape its shadow. He senses the cost of empire, the loneliness that follows even the greatest rulers. And yet he continues. Because the world he envisions demands sacrifice. Meanwhile, in Thebes, the palace air grows colder. Thutmose feels the moment drawing near. Hatshepsut's health begins to waver, and though she hides it well, the court can sense her fading strength. Whispers ripple through corridors. Advisors shift their loyalties with quiet footsteps. Thutmose prepares to take the throne not with anger but with a fierce resolve. He does not plan revenge. He plans restoration. A kingdom led by a rightful heir, shaped by lessons learned in silence. The night Hatshepsut falls ill, the palace becomes a realm of shadows. Servants move like ghosts. Priests chant prayers. Thutmose stands at her bedside, looking not at an enemy but at the woman who ruled Egypt with a brilliance few kings could match. Their eyes meet for a lingering moment. It is not forgiveness. Not apology. Only recognition, of the complicated bond they shared, of the power they wielded, of the history they shaped together. When she closes her eyes for the last time, Egypt exhales a long, silent breath. Thutmose ascends the throne with a heart filled not with triumph, but with an unyielding need to prove himself worthy of the legacy he inherits. He does not erase her achievements. He builds upon them. He becomes a warrior king who marches across borders and engraves Egypt's name deeper into the sands of time. Their stories, though marked by tension, become intertwined forever. Beyond the horizon, Cyrus begins his ascent. He unites the tribes of Persia with wisdom and strength. He defeats foes not to dominate them, but to bring stability to their lands. His reputation spreads. Some call him a liberator. Some call him a visionary. All agree that he is unlike any king they have known, and in Babylon, Hammurabi prepares to reveal the laws that will define civilization. Stone workers carve symbols into a massive basalt stele. Each stroke of the chisel echoes through the city like a heartbeat. People gather to witness the birth of order. When the monument stands complete, the world stands humbled. For the first time, justice has been shaped into words that no king can bend, no ruler can distort.